Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Spotlight, brought to you by the Georgetown Branch NAACP, where we are here to educate, motivate, and activate. We have some really exciting news today and some heartbreaking news as well. I'm going to bring on my co-host today, which is Mr. Neil, our president, and Vice President Deontay Winchester, to talk about all of this good news. Good morning. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I heard you got good news.
Oh, yeah, we got good news. There's always good news before people like to break the tie, but let's talk about the good news so we can all start on this good foot this morning. Yesterday, Carvers Bay graduate, my Miss Melissa Jefferson, wins the U.S. championship with 100 meters. That's some great news.
That's awesome news, Ebony. And listening to the news this morning, she was the dog horse in the race. It's something about darkness always come back to light. She was the dog horse. And she came out of nowhere, and you could see her coming. She was in the middle of there. When she crossed that finish line, it was like she ran as though she knew she was going to win that race, and she runs all the races like that. Let's check her out.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge. Just think about it. That's the second championship she won this year, because she won the NCAA also.
Yep, she sure did.
That's not the second, but those are the two major ones. But to win the U.S. championship, 100 meters for women, that's huge. That's a Olympic vow.
Yeah.
Yep. And she from Carvers Bay. Let's talk about that.
What can I say?
So much goodness comes out of that school. I'm talking about a school that they consider low income, a school that they consider mostly minority. Look at what can come out of that if you invest in people, when you nurture people, when you give back. This is what happens.
Hey, Title I, and you know how people look at Title I schools. We have some people that don't even want to go to Title I school to teach, but they don't understand those are the best schools to go into because, hey, they're like Jew. Pressure. Hey, what comes out of pressure? Diamonds. That's what comes out. And Carvers Bay has a history. Just look what they have done this year in the state. Top honors. The only school in the state to get top honors for Title I student going into college. I think it was right at 94%. That's huge.
Major is major. When I begin to sit back and think about how whenever Pleasant Hill and Choppy were separate, and they had talked about bringing the schools together so that we can improve the education for both schools. A lot of parents, a lot of white parents took their kids and they went to Johnsonville. Yeah. And now Johnsonville is falling behind in their schools, and Carvers Bay has excelled in a lot of different areas. And I'm so very proud to say that I graduated from there. I was a student at Pleasant Hill, but the folks still pulled together. Folks like yourself, Mr. Neal, other community leaders pushed 20 something years ago. I can't believe I graduated 20 years ago, but over 20 years ago, you guys did something that today made a huge impact in our community. And look at what it birthed 20 something years ago. That's why when we're in a fight for justice, we're in a fight for doing something good, sometimes we don't always see the results right then. That's why I tell people, keep moving, keep voting to put people in the right place, because we may not live to see the results of it, but at some point it will make that impact.
And Ebony, you hit it right on the head too, because if you just look at what's going on there, and one thing about Carvers Bay, well, all schools. It's critical that the community gets involved with the school. I know you're on the School Improvement Council. I'm on the School Improvement Council. And just look at what's happening on the 8th of July. They're headed to Chicago to another national championship. You know,
Yes.
FBLA, Carvers Bay Middle School. That's the middle school. So everything that we do on the bottom, it works its way up to the top. You know what I'm saying? And just look at how the summer programs and stuff can flow back into the Carvers Bay Feeder School, the Village Group. You have Ruthie Woods. You have the program with Mary Rice Crenshaw. These are programs that supports our schools and our children. And it's critical that we invest into our children in that order, because there's some of these kids are doing robotics. They're doing swimming. They're going out to the Bowen. I mean, you just name it. They're taking robotics flights. Some of them are going to flight training and stuff. It's just huge what's coming out of these Black communities. Everyone is trying to get into these programs, especially the Village Group. They were just visited the other day by the Attorney General, Attorney Governor. So, it's just huge, man, what happens there, and we don't turn our heads against our schools, our community. Others do. That's why we have to stay on top of it, that knows better, because it's critical. Who you put in those principal positions, vice principal position, is critical to the direction your schools will go. And the community needs to get involved. And who you put into those school board seats and elected officials there during these elections, it matters. You muted, Ebony.
Excuse me. Something else I would like to put out there, Mr. Neal. Like you said before, Carvers Bay has another group that they're doing really good in track, and so they're looking for us to put it out there that they need donations for. I think they're going to California.
Wow.
Nina Carr, if you would go to her Facebook page, we're going to put some more information out there. But Nina Carr is a parent of one of the students. She's a parent and has a student that goes to Carvers Bay, and their team is going to be having a fundraiser. Here it is. It's a fish fry. Please show support. Friday 1st on July, they have fried fish, rice, baked beans, Premier Hair Studio. That's where it's going to be in Georgetown from 10 until everything is sold out. Hold on. Let's see. We got the kids right here. And this comes again from programs and things that we're doing in the community. That's why it's so important to invest back into the community. So if you all would please just show up to the event and get a fish sandwich and support the kids at the same time.
That's huge, Ebony. I'll be there eating fish. I like fish anyhow. I just have to buy some more fish. Where's the studio at?
Goodness, I've already pulled it down, but it's at the hair.
It's over there by Taste Lounge.
Taste Lounge.
Okay.
Where the bus station used to be.
Yeah, that's where what's his name? Green restaurant is at. The Taste Lounge. Yeah.
Yep.
Taste Lounge. The Taste Lounge, yeah. And that's another great restaurant there near the Taste Lounge. That young man have patented his own sauce and everything out of there. I mean, in the grocery store. Yeah, Carvers Bay again.
Carvers Bay again. That's my classmate. Yeah. Matter of fact, Mario and a
Mario
veteran.
Green. Yeah, his mother and father is my classmate. I mean, huge. He was a Navy. He was a Navy chef in the Navy. Won all kinds of awards there. Also, I tracked him through the Navy while he was there. Great young man. But
I mean, if he was in the Navy, he couldn't have been that good anyway.
Well, food, they eat a lot. They eat a lot, man, I hope they don't Navy folks watch. I got 2 brothers in the Navy and 2 nieces, so hey.
Well, once again, we just want to go ahead and congratulate Miss Melissa Jefferson from Carvers Bay. Went to Coastal Carolina University, has won the U.S. Championship for 100 meters. Congrats, congrats again. So now we're going to move on into
Hey,
some.
Ebony,
Yes, sir.
one more thing. And also, her family is having a celebration for her on the 2nd of July. You know, at the I think it's at the home of the Jeffersons, but more to come on that. We'll put that out next week and stuff. But they're having a celebration for her, so just look for that to come and stuff. I'm
Yes.
planning on being there. You know, I might have changed some plans, but I'm planning on being there. Great young lady. You know, send her some lunch money. You know, she's
Yes,
on Facebook. Send her some lunch money. She have a cash app. Just go to Melissa Jefferson. You can't miss her. I send her lunch money all the time just to help her out and stuff. Yeah. There's a lot to do traveling and stuff. That's a lot of money they spend out on the road.
It's true. So, speaking of investing in our children, we have to invest in the people who look after our children and care for our children every single day. Matter of fact, there is a school board meeting on this Tuesday. That's going to be the last meeting that sums up the budget. And one of the things that we are wanting to make sure and ensure is that there is fair hiring practices and equal pay in the school district. Mr. Neal, you may want to expound, Deontay may want to expound on that, trying to raise the minimum wage for the workers over at Carvers Bay, the people that are with our kids 8 to 10 hours a day.
You know, Ebony, it's so. Go ahead, Deontay.
No, sir, you go ahead because you put in so much work to raise up that minimum wage down there for the lower income, the janitors and things of that nature. I'll come in after you.
Well, seriously, the NAACP Georgetown putting in a lot of work within the school district and the county of Georgetown and surrounding areas. You know, we get great support, you know, from our supporters and stuff. They be at the meetings, which means a lot when we show up, especially in volume, to speak, you know, to those ills that affects our people and stuff. And low income and low wages and poverty is one of them. You know, the school district, one of the highest salary in there for custodian, cafeteria workers, and bus drivers was $11 an hour. That's at the peak, you know, and it's shameful that we have people sitting at the top there that's sucking all the wind out of the school district. But what we are pushing for, you know, we're pushing for $15 an hour. As of the last budget meeting that took place, you know, they're at $13 an hour from leaving that meeting. Something could have happened in the rear. I'm not sure, but it looks like $13 an hour right now. So, but we are still pushing for $15 an hour because anything less than that is still poverty. Even $15 an hour is still below the income gap, the median income. But we have to push for it, you know, because if you walk into the meetings and you see these workers in the hallways and stuff, just go into the school board meetings. Just walk into the school district office at times. Walk into the schools. When you see the Saxons, walk and see the cafeteria workers. And just ask them, what do you make an hour? You know, it's to the point now when you talk to them, they get teary-eyed because it's so minute compared to what everybody else was making. Now, remember during the pandemic, school got shut down because they didn't have janitors. Janitors were out for COVID and the school got shut down. So they're only important when it's time to be a doormat. You know what I'm saying? We have to change that. And that's the way I look at it too. They're being treated as though they're a doormat to everybody else that's employed in Georgetown County School District. You have people bringing their children in there, $90,000 a year, and giving them a raise, pushing for them to get a raise. You know, the nepotism is just off the change. 4 $50,000 jobs just open up, entry-level positions, $50,000 jobs just to bring in family members and stuff into the district.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But we can't get, you know, the word as well, we just can't get them there. And when you got the Lisa Johnson, the budget person there, making statements when the question is asked, what is the minimum wage? She couldn't even answer it. So that tells you they had never thought about what we are pushing for.
And they don't think about it, Mr. Neal, because it doesn't affect them. They're already making a lot of money. So that's the part.
Yeah. She said she never thought about it.
Else.
You know, some things you just don't say. It tells you how numb-minded they are. even to say that at a budget meeting, oh, we just never thought about it. Dr. Lance asked the question. Dr. Farrell asked the question. Randy Walker, all of them pushing for asking these questions, and folks say, well, we never thought about it. So that tells you they never even looked at those people to see if there was an opportunity there to give them bring them up to $15 an hour. Because Dr. Lance asked, why can't we do it? They just never thought about it.
It's just a lot of things that we need to look at as it relates to the budget there at the district. It's so doggone top heavy. And I know y'all alluded to that as well. And even with that, you have a superintendent that was just approved for a raise of several $1,000s.
8,000.
Who, quite frankly, didn't even earn it. But you have people down at the bottom who are struggling, working all doggone day, struggling to just pay bills and maintain with their family food and things of that nature. Make that make sense to me. And then they're so disconnected with what's going on there in their district, they don't even know what the minimum wage is and what people are actually being paid. So it shows you that they don't care. And then you have certain members of the school board who feel like their role is to just approve whatever the school district puts before them when they're charged with oversight. So we have to be very careful when it's time to vote these people in positions, because they make very important decisions that affect our kids and our community every day. We need the right people in these positions that are going to make the right decisions for our youth. And I'm going to leave it like that.
Let me tell you, let me just say this right here. I know that there are people that are for us that are watching this show. And I also understand that there are people who don't care for us as the NAACP also watching this show that try to keep up with us. I'm tired of hearing about the NAACP is always fussing about this. They're always ranting and raving about that. It's not about ranting and raving. The things that we address are things that affect all of us. These are things that are going to help all of us. And when you begin to start talking about investment, almost any topic, and we're at school board meetings pushing for people to get paid at least $15 an hour, that again, which is just really a compromise. People should be making around $21 an hour just to even make a living wage. Then we need to really start considering that it's not just Black, white, or Hispanic, or anything between. That affects all of us. And whenever people can make the money that they need to make to live, then everything else starts to level out. We have to be able to spread equity. And the only way to have equality for anybody, for men, for women, for minorities, for those who are disenfranchised, is to level the playing when it comes down to money. It all boils down to money.
Yeah. Money, and skin tone plays a major role.
That part.
Okay. You can't leave that out when you start talking about equality and equity and inclusion and diversity. It all plays a major role in the direction that we go as a country. And that's being represented right now. Because we have schools right now where principals are being removed, and they'll find out later on why they're being removed out of the position. Because, you have white teachers complaining about being held accountable in those positions. We just need to say what it is. That's the bottom line. That's what it is. Because those are the ones that complain, having these, walk and sit. We having what they call it.
What?
It'll come back to me. But but what's happening and stuff? They're going to these schools and investigating situations and leaving the schools and never tell the principals at the school what was the finding during the investigations. You know why? Because the finding wasn't what the complaint was about. They never tell them what the finding was. It's just sad. But if it was the reverse order, I guarantee it wouldn't even be just a complaint. They would have been out that school in that moment. The bottom line. They want to offer them lower positions and stuff of that nature. Would you accept this? Would you accept it? No, you accept where you were or higher. You know, everybody that's the opposite color that left those schools, whites have left schools because of issues and stuff that they have had, but they got promoted. They went to the district office. They got promoted. They got a raise. Okay. We get demoted or get sent home, one out of the two. And that's what's going on right now. But,
and you have whites in these schools that are tearing these schools apart, and nobody is even looking at that situation.
Nope.
Right. That's right.
And you touched on something earlier, Ebony, and we have to realize that the rising tide lifts all ships. So when we fight for the rights of minorities, everybody benefits. You can go back to even the Civil Rights Act, right? On the heels of the Civil Rights Act, you had LGBT rights come along later on. You have women rights. You had religious rights, and all of these things. So when one group fights and becomes and gets in a better position socially, we should all come together and help them, because in the long run, we're all one race of people, the human race. And when we can all get together and flourish together, society is better as a whole.
As a whole.
I think we missed that.
As a whole, yeah, people, and the thing about it is people, it works in the exact reverse order. Whenever you vote for things or put people in place that are hateful, it not only hurts the people who vote for them, eventually they're going to get stung too. Just leading into who else is going to get stung? The Supreme Court justices that are pushing that overturn this Roe versus Wade. And I think that's a good segue into the next topic. You know, then to have the nerve to come around and say, well, we're going to push it even further, and to say that we're going to now attack contraceptives. Let me tell you something. When I started thinking about that, we are still in a pandemic, and we have a food crisis. We have a food shortage. And listen, we're in a first world country, and we're supposed to be the best in the world, but we got a food shortage. We have a high number of people who are still unvaccinated. And on top of it, we have a baby formula shortage. And you want people to have more babies? What kind of foolish crap is that? And you attacking women.
They're rejecting Medicaid in some of the states.
Yeah.
So down Medicaid.
Yeah, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt everybody except for the rich, because whenever the rich need an abortion, or they have a situation where they need a DNC, the only thing they're going to do is take a family trip outside of the country because they can afford to do that. And they're going to have the abortion anyway. So the people who can't get it, they're still going to have an abortion, but then they're going to do it in an unsafe manner. And also you're going to have women like, I forgot her name, the woman in Texas who is fighting for her life. They have her locked up because she had a miscarriage, and they thought that, and she's now having to prove that she didn't actually have an abortion.
Women's right. White men and conservative black people. White men, okay? And conservative folks like Clarence Thomas. Okay. One black man. I can't say black people. One black man, you know, skin deep. That seems as though it's all right for men to make decision over the rights of women. You know, or anyone. We don't get to make those decisions. We should not be making those decisions.
I agree, Mr. Neal. And you and I were talking pre-production, and a lot of what Ebony said, I definitely agree with, and we discussed it, as well. But the fact of the matter is, what's going to happen is this is going to increase the gap between the haves and the have-nots, because raising a child is very expensive, and all three of us can attest to that. And so if you're in a position where you already are barely staying afloat yourself, to put another child in that situation is going to make that person deeper and lower below the poverty line.
Yeah. Yep. And absolutely.
Exactly. And those who, as you said, Ebony, can't afford it are just going to go elsewhere and have it done anyway. Because we know South Carolina is one of the states, red as I don't know what, that's going to outlaw abortions. So those who can afford to do so are going to leave South Carolina and go to wherever they need to go, whether it be California, whether it be New York, and they're going to have that procedure.
Yep.
So they're not going to be affected. So it's going to widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And it's also going to cause people to get into situations where they may be harming themselves trying to do things to terminate pregnancies because they can't do it medically under a doctor that knows exactly what needs to be done. So we're putting these women in a very, very dangerous situations. We're putting families in a position where they can go further into poverty, and we're just basically trying to control the body of women, and we absolutely have no right to do so. Now, also, I'm gonna say this, and a lot of people ain't gonna appreciate me saying it, but I wouldn't be me if I don't keep it 100 now. Men also, we talk so much about women's rights. Men don't have the right to choose anything after the point of conception. That's completely on a woman. So when we talk about equality, where's the equality in that situation? Because even if a man wanted to keep that child and a woman wanted to choose to terminate, that man has no right to say anything about that. So when we talk about equality, y'all know me, I'm straight across the board. So we gotta talk about equality everywhere. So Roe v. Wade, while I definitely agree that women should have the right to choose, I also can look at this thing objectively and say that Roe v. Wade allowed for a lot of irresponsibility because people could make bad decisions and then go and clean up their mess later on. So what does that mean now? It means now that there is no longer that right, we have to make sure that we're making responsible decisions. We have to make sure that marry before you carry. I'll leave it there.
Well, even if you're married, Deontay, I have raised my daughter up to have her to understand that she can plan her family, even if she may go ahead and do college, may go ahead before she starts a family and still be married. Women and men together should be able to plan their marriage. That's why it was called family planning. But to attack a woman's body, and let's just go ahead and get down to the chase, because a lot of people are out here protesting, and they should. I don't believe in people burning nothing down, but if it happened, that's just their own. That's just.
I agree with, and I don't want to cut you off, Ebony. I'm gonna let you finish, but I agree with that as well. We're planning families because my wife and I actually planned when we were gonna have my daughter to the point where she was finishing her doctorate, I was finishing my first graduate degree, and we were just not in the point where we wanted to have a child. So that's definitely something that I agree with, and something that needs to be looked at as well, because I think that when they did all of these and made all of these decisions, they were looking at it from the perspective of single women just going out there and fornicating and doing all of these things, and that's just not always the case.
That is.
I'm sorry,
That's so true, and I start even looking down at the narrative of what's going on. And a lot of people are upset. And this craziest thing is these people who we put in place have to understand that they are put in place to vote for the will of the people, not for the will of your high-end corporate owning friends. That's what's happening. The majority of society are upset about the decision. That meant that the Supreme Court went against the will of the people. And the worst part about it all is this: it's going to open up a whole can of worms for other things that we didn't bargain for. And we're going to see the results of that here soon. What I really look at it is, good morning, Mr. Swinton Jr. Thank you for joining us. And also thank you, Ms. Stafford, for joining us this morning on this show. I start looking into the narrative of what it is. All this has to do with money. I'm going to just repeat it again, like I said it before. In China, years ago, they limit people to one child because they had too many people. So then they increased the limit to 2 children. Then they increased the limit to 3 people, because you know why? You ever wonder why? did they start letting women have more children in China? It's because they woke up one day and realized they won't have enough people in 20 years to sustain societies and be workers. It's a money thing. They need for women to be mass producers of babies so that they can have enough workers for their corporate companies. And that's really what we're looking into right now. 20 years from now, all you can hear is, oh, well, people don't want to work. People don't want to work. They don't want to come back to work. They don't want to. It's not that people don't want to work. People want a working wage. And now that women had a voice over when they wanted to have a family, or if they wanted a family at all, it's some people that don't want kids. They know they can't deal with kids. They know they got mental health issues. They know that they got all kind of stuff going on. They want to use women as manufacturers to fuel their businesses. And it's a shame and it's sickening. That's what all this has to deal with.
It has everything to do with that.
So if they want to, that's them.
That's why during the pandemic, Ebony, you saw where some of these red states didn't care whether the pandemic was affecting people or not. Look at those meat factory and chicken factories and stuff. They just stuffed those people in there. Just get the product out. Let's just produce. Let's just produce. The whole thing was about a dollar sign in economics more than the health of people. And it's right back to the same thing. Red states is about a dollar. It's not about people's health. There's enough balance out there to get both, but they turned down Medicare. Okay. They turned down Medicare, but yet still they tell people you can't have an abortion. So you go in the back alleyways now. So what role does Medicare plays in that and the impact that Medicare would have had on those situations? You have people bleeding out and all kinds of stuff, these crazy ideas and stuff that these men, that just make these decisions. And some of them say they're evangelical and Christians and stuff of this nature. I don't even understand that, because we have some right here in Georgetown that comes on our Facebook and push out and stuff. People need to go back to where they came from and foolish stuff like that. So it's just the unhumane approach that people take to try to dehumanize people, and just because of skin tone and what they stand for. This is a United States. United means something. Yep. We should be stronger together. Shouldn't be dividing. You go to other countries, you don't see nobody fighting over gun rights and all kinds of foolishness and stuff like that. And that's what it all comes back to. But back to Roe versus Wade, we just need to fight for it in the LGBT community. Hey, we support that. We fight for it. That's their right. That's their right. We are not paid gods,
And and another thing is this, when I look at the whole Roe versus Wade being overturned, what that does is it sets a standard now that we can digress as a nation. All the things that people fight for, like voting rights, being overturned, them putting things in place to hurt people. And the only thing it does is it sets us back as a society, which is really sad. And we just need to remember that when we go to the polls. Matter of fact, we have an election, a runoff election coming up that people need to know about, which we'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah, makes you wonder what's next. Brown v. Board of Education,
right?
Because they have set a precedent that basically, if it's not implicitly written in the Constitution, it should not be law. That's basically what they're saying.
Clarence Thomas said it. He said it. This is a Supreme Court justice said it. They're more political now than I've seen anything in my life. He said it. And that man has some issues.
Bad issues. And he don't understand. He's married to a Caucasian lady, a white lady, and it's going to come back and bite her too. And not in the literal sense. But the people that are making these choices, these are people who are already finished having kids.
Yep.
Again, people like who it doesn't necessarily directly impact. These are the folks that are making decisions. How is it that men are making decisions for women? How is it that people who are so happy that it passed, they're outside of their childbearing age? they're not they don't have to worry about being scrutinized or put in jail if they should need some type of procedure or need birth control.
So what's next? They're gonna outlaw vasectomies?
Well, what they need to outlaw is part of our tax monies, government monies pay for Viagra. So now if you want to overturn Roe versus Wade and women don't have control over their bodies, then we need to go ahead and start with the Viagra, because as far as I'm concerned, my tax dollars paying that, and it's no point in us paying for an erection, but you can pay or at least acknowledge and respect the decision of a woman as a result of a man getting an erection.
And
MD, I wasn't ready
thing,
for that one today, so let's go ahead and jump on it anyhow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you hit me in the face with that one.
That is so true. But that's where we are right now. Those are the not the hard subject. Those are the things that need to be said. It needs to be said, because that's a right. You put your tax dollars there. You talk with contraception and everything else, they're outlawing. What kind of foolishness is that? You know, it's crazy. It's hypocritical on one end. They're so hypocritical. You know, conservatism. That's what it boils down to. People really need to think about what they're saying or what they're thinking when they walk into these ballot booths. That's what they need to look at it. On the 28th, when they walk into the ballot booth, they really need to think about everything that's being said on this show today and what's happening right in front of them every day.
I know we're trying to move on from this subject, but another thing that needs to be discussed as well is that there is no exception for incest and rape, as horrible as that is.
Crazy.
So can you imagine someone being forced to bear the child of someone who violated them in that way?
Yeah.
I worked with, those who don't know, mental counselor. I worked with a young lady who was molested by a family member and didn't say anything until it was too late for her to seek an abortion. And the effects of that is this young lady, and I'm getting a little emotional talking about it, because this young lady's life was turned upside down to the point where she has attempted suicide several times.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when we do things like this, we don't think about the actual individuals that will be affected by these decisions.
Yep.
It's horrible.
The problem is most times the decision makers, they don't think about that, Deontay. That's why it's so important that people speak to those folks directly to them and make sure they understand that what they want is what they're voting for. And if they're not giving you that, elected officials not giving you that, vote them out, because that's what's happening. We are voting in people that's hurting us. And it's sad because of namesake. We are voting in people because of skin tone that's hurting us. We have to vote people in that's going to protect us and vote to our needs and to the needs of the people.
Well, you know, and it's sad. And what I want to do is segue into real quick the gun violence and gun control. As many of you know, that the president did sign off on the gun control bill. There's a lot that can be said. So at the end of the day, what I can say is that it's a good move. Sort of, if they will actually administer this whole gun control.
Yeah. Thanks.
That's going to be the main thing. It was signed, but I'm still a little nervous because it's so much that can come out of this whenever you talk about gun control. All the mass shootings and things that have been going on. I see that the Proud Boys have showed up to a public library the day before yesterday during children's story time at a library, because they didn't like that the group was a LGBTQ reading group. When you have things like that, and matter of fact, some folks were arrested because these folks are walking around with militia style type gear. You know, you're scaring people. Then to come up in a children's story group and us talking about gun control, I'm still a little bit nervous because think about it. The Democrats, and again, the NAACP is nonpartisan, but I'm just speaking the facts here. Democrats have been pushing for gun control for a very long time, and it wasn't passed. But now all of a sudden, it took all these mass shootings to come to a bipartisan agreement. That's ridiculous. Why wasn't gun control and gun violence something that they could have talked about or dealt with before now?
Power
Just
and
like in
politics.
South Carolina, hate crime bill hasn't passed. Why
Yeah.
not?
You know why? Because of what you just said, Ebony. The bill wasn't passed because of what you just said. The hate crime bill, it affects, it's the difference in skin tone. These mass shootings and stuff of that nature, you know, they can roll in South Carolina, the max there get us a life sentence.
And that's true. But here's the part I don't understand. To me, something like a hate crime bill should be something that's federal,
Yeah.
straight across the line. How is it that you don't? It's not a hate in South Carolina, but it is a hate in California. Hate is hate.
Yeah. You have to prove it. You have to prove it at that level when it happens in South Carolina. Because all they have to do is admit to it and stuff, and then the death penalty just go away from there. Just by admittance and based on attorneys and how it's litigated. But it's amazing. Just look at the young man, Richard Moore. He had to choose between a firing squad and execution. So what a choice. None of those should even be on the table. You see what I'm saying? It's so hypocritical what happens. And it's always red states. It's only 2 states now without a hate crime bill. And South Carolina is always one in the mess.
These leaders are hateful and they're playing politics with people's lives. Because when you look at what happened with those Asians being shot, and immediately after that, you have legislation that protected Asians. And why did that happen so quickly? Because they look at the changes in demographics. They see that in X amount of years, Caucasians will possibly become the minority. So they're looking for another ally. So this is all a political game. And they're playing with people's lives. And we have to look at that when we head to the ballot box.
Yeah. That's so true. Because even following those legislation, Deontay, the question came out, you know, and it came out, those Asians, when it says ethnic and race, do they put white or Asian? You see what I'm saying? All that came out during the same time of the shooting. So that's where it's getting to now. You know, it's almost to the point where you vote white or you vote color. And that's the scary part for white America. That's why the minority majority situation there is playing a major role.
But, you know, what I want to know is now that this bill is passed about gun control to reduce gun violence, what's going to happen on the back end of it? A lot of folks are not happy about this gun control bill being passed. What's going to happen with these huge corporate gun companies and the companies that support these gun manufacturers? You know, for them, they understand that with this passing, that they're either going to set their sales and their revenue is going to drop. So something has to come as a response from them. What we're going to do about the money we lost. And so now I'm kind of waiting and bracing for the backlash off of these, with this being passed. You know, it's a shame where the gun control bill should reduce violence. I almost kind of fret that it may even increase violence from some of these crazy radical groups.
And you're going to see that anyhow, Ebony. You know, you just listen at what you just said about the Proud Boys approaching that library. You see what I'm
With
saying? It's just crazy.
With masks on, like the Ku Klux Klan. When I saw the picture, I really meant to have the picture on the show today. All I could think about was modern day Ku Klux Klan. You put something over your face and go around terrorizing people. That's what they're doing. People can protest all they want. And I understand that the public library is a public library, but for people, a person or a group of people to think that it's okay to put on a mask and come into a public library with gear and terrorize little kids, it's gone too far.
And they'll be considered just sick people. That's just sick people. You know, just look at the insurrection and what's coming out now. You know, I mean, plotting to overthrow, you know, democracy. So it's the same thing. You know, yeah, the hood just became a necktie in a lot of cases. Look at what we deal with right in our own communities right now. You know, trying to get just a pay raise for people. You know, just think about it. These guys in pretty much combat gears. You know, Confederate flags flying in the White House, in the Capitol building. I met a young man the other day that in the Air Force Base in Charleston. He was a Capitol Police, and he was telling me about the impact that it is on his life right now. He retired about 6 months ago. So, you know, these things just don't affect in the moment. It affects for a lifetime, the impact that it is on people, from PTSD to everything else, you know. But in 80% of America, you know, pushing for the gun violence bill, but the NRA will control that because of politicians that's getting money from the NRA. Now, all that's a major part of, like you said, I mean, what happens next? The NRA will make some of those decisions because of campaign dollars. Follow the money, and you'll find the crooks.
Yep. But
well, first of all, most of these groups, like the Proud Boys and them, are not even on the FBI's list of domestic terrorists.
Right.
Let's start. Why are they not considered domestic terrorists? Why are the
you cut in
protect our leaders at the Capitol and who vandalized U.S. property? Why are they not domestic terrorists? But you go back and you look at groups like the Black Panther. You had an FBI task force called the COINTELPRO that was set up just for the purpose of finding ways to dismantle these groups, and in a lot of cases even kill the leaders of these groups. So you look at the different ways that these groups are looked at and viewed or even treated by our government. It tells you everything you need to know about the way in which the government feels about people.
I think we might have lost Deontay if you can hear us. But yes, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Richard Hutchinson. He's saying that gun control is more important than lives of your people. We have bigger issues going on. That is so true.
So
you
true.
know, they would rather protect their guns than children, than people. If you're watching today, please know that you can put a post out there, put a comment, and you could be featured on today's spotlight. We appreciate all of you who are joining us today. We're always here every Saturday to bring you information about what's going on, to give you insight, to provide you with some education and ways that you can make a positive impact into the community. Go ahead, Mr. Neal, excuse me.
But getting back to the schools, just look at what happened in Texas. With this young man walked in with an AR-15, walked by the policeman, took them an hour to respond to it. They had the proper protection with them, with the shields that they had. No one moved on it. Every police task force that spoke in reference to that situation said a minimum of 30 seconds he should have been engaged. He walked by the police. They were standing outside, I guess, waiting on the next order. The chief was telling them to stand down. So
stand down. Just don't that sound like Trump?
Hey,
didn't Trump say stand back and stand down or something like that? What do you?
Yeah, killing black and brown people. Ain't no reason for the rush in there.
Listen what P. Lord said. Police was there 3 minutes and they didn't go until 19 minutes later. Now that is foolishness. That is true. That's not an opinion. Thank you, Ms. Richards.
And then why is it that anytime you say anything in support of gun control, they automatically say, well, you hate America. You hate the Second Amendment and all of this stuff. Well, first of all, Mr. Neal and I are both combat veterans. And all three of us are responsible gun owners. We just understand that there are some things more important. And everyone should have that same realization and understanding.
Here's the part that gets me. We have I forgot when I went into a meeting yesterday with Live Well. There's a coalition called Live Well Georgetown. I'm actually part of that coalition, 7 Dimensions Outreach. My nonprofit is a part of that coalition. And that was one of the things that they're trying to address in Georgetown, not just Georgetown, but everywhere, but specifically Georgetown, Williamsburg, and Horry County. They were saying somewhere 1 in 4 adults have mental health issues, major mental health issues. So when you have that amount of people that have issues, these are the last folks who you either don't want them in possession of a gun, or they need some type of proper training or education about, again, how'd you say it just now, Deontay? About owning a gun responsibly. People don't know how to own a gun responsibly. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They should have to submit a psychiatric assessment along with their application to purchase a weapon before they're able to get it.
Oh, Mr. Richard, were you over at the Juneteenth festival?
He was
there.
Is
that how we met?
He was there.
Oh.
Him and Dennis Sumter was there also. Looked like Ebony faded out a little bit, Deontay, but Richie Hutchinson and Dennis Sumter was there last weekend. They came out of Georgia and Orangeburg, which they were there for a while enjoying just the festivities and stuff.
Yeah, but this issue is something that we definitely have to address, because this epidemic of gun violence is something that is getting worse, not only in the Black community but everywhere.
It's getting worse
and
everywhere.
until it starts to affect everyone, I doubt we'll get any real change as far as legislation. It's sad to say, but it's true.
But it's already affecting everyone. The problem is the NRA is controlling it from politics and power. It's affecting everyone. Domestic violence, domestic terrorists. It's not just shooting up Black and brown people. They shooting up anybody. They shot up kindergarten. Look at Timothy McVeigh and all those folks. They bombed kindergartens and all kinds of stuff. Look at Connecticut, Columbine. Look at the Colorado theater shooting. They don't look around and say who's Black or white. It's the mindset that they put these guns in the hands of. It's that mindset. That 18 to 21, they said they approved for more background testing and stuff of that nature. Even in the military, you don't put a gun in nobody's hands until you get so many time and hours of training, and training, and you don't put bullet into a weapon until you get an order to. Here it is out here, they buy bullets at will and put it into the weapon when they choose to. You know, weapons shouldn't even be carried on the streets. If they're going to make weapons responsible and make people responsible, keep it in their home where they're being affected.
Keep it on your
No one should be
property.
walking around no weapons on their hip and stuff of that nature. That's foolish.
Right. And at that point, then what's the need for security, or the police whenever people are allowed to walk around? Oh, I have a right to carry a AR-15 around just because it's open carry and this is that and the third. People have such diluted mindsets and pretty well ignorant about how the law actually works. So I want to segue into the very last topic before we close out. And if you are joining today, please give us a thumbs up, a heart, something. Let us know that you're here. Let us know. That really helps our channel. The last thing is the importance of local elections. For those of you who do not know, there is a runoff election going on right now. Matter of fact, early voting has already started or had already started for the statewide office for the Democrats and the Republican primaries. The election day is going to be June the 28th. And excuse me, my apologies. I should have had this on the screen, but it is on our Facebook page, the information that I'm about to read. Please go to our Facebook page and to see more about this. And just in case you need to see something, but let me start over. There will be a runoff election for the statewide office. Some of those are Senate seats here. Both the Democrat and Republican primaries on June the 28th. Early voting. Early voting already happened. If you voted in 614 primaries, you must vote for the same party. All right. Democrat, you have the U.S. Senate too. You may vote for one person. That's either Catherine Fleming Bruce or Crystal Matthews. Matter of fact, they had a forum last night, really good to get to know these ladies and their platform. I already know who I am rooting for when it comes down to that. That's why we got to participate and find out about who we're voting for. Just keep in mind the importance of local elections. In my opinion, local elections are probably more important than presidential elections, because we're dealing with folks who get to decide what's going to happen to things that we see, feel, and touch with us and our children and our environment on a daily basis. So please make sure that you vote on June the 28th at your polls. Again, more information about it on the website. Go ahead, Deontay, Mr. Neal.
And for those who, and I'm sure everyone here understands, but for those who may not know, a runoff election happens when two candidates in a party are close in number after the initial election with a large pool of candidates running for the same office. It'll be the top two vote getters going head to head to decide who is going to run against the other party in the primary election. So that's what the need for a runoff election is and why we're having one.
But Deontay, this must be a critical year for election, because in South Carolina you have 27 runoff elections that's going on. 27.
It's getting heated.
It's getting heated, and this is to come, because, and if you notice how things are shifting with these elections, even within parties, how the party is so now partisan within the party, based on what people are looking for, the have and the have-nots within the party. That's why you see a lot of runoff also, and people are now understanding more about what's going on. You got newcomers just coming up and putting a lot of heat on these folks that have been sitting there for ages now. And it's critical that's the importance of educating people on the importance of why they should vote, what they're voting for, and how it's going to affect them. Those things are critical. And primary is low turnout, but just check out the state Senate, this U.S. Senate election, Melissa Matthews, and Crystal Matthews. I mean,
yeah,
that's amazing. You know,
It's
and
absolutely amazing.
in Williamsburg County, Representative Kirby and McKnight. I think it was what, 4 vote different, four vote different for that seat.
Yeah, and that explains the whole reason to have a runoff, right? But something that you mentioned, Mr. Neal, that I really want to hone in on real quick, and that's why it's so important to vote in local elections. I forgot which seat it was. It just happened not long ago. This was just last year. Keep in mind, from a pop in this particular area, I want to think there was a population of 100,000 registered voters. Out of 100,000 registered voters, the fate of 100,000 people was decided on 500 votes. Only 500 people voted in that particular election, and whoever won got to decide for everybody else. So you have to think, okay, in these local elections, they're important, but because there's such low turnout, it has the biggest impact. So please show up and vote on June the 28th. If you're not sure who to vote for, look up their platform. If you're not sure how to look up their platform, message us.
Yeah,
Okay.
or just go to scvote.gov.
scvotes.gov.
You know, you can do it right there. But Ebony, you said something there. That means what? 5% of the people made decisions for 95% of the people.
Right.
That's amazing.
That's what happens when you don't vote.
That's how when you don't vote. But that 95% is going to suffer, you know, but that 5%, they might get what they want because they control the electorate now. 5% of the people for that 4 years. You know, right here in the city council election, the last city council election, decided by 9 votes and 67 votes. And in the school board election in District 3, the last school board election was decided by 19 votes. 19 votes. That between Sandra Johnson and Ramona McCullough. 19 votes decide that election.
Yep. That means enough of us don't get out and vote. So that's why we see the foolishness that's going on, because enough of us don't get out and vote or think that it's worth voting for.
Yeah.
It's worth voting for, y'all. Get out and vote. There's enough people to make positive change. Your vote does count, and it counts more so in the local election because then we don't have to worry about the electoral college deciding the final vote. You actually have a say so this time.
That's the key. And they really need to get rid of the electoral college. More damaging than anything.
We also can't allow these local politicians to get comfortable. We have to hold their feet to the fire and hold them accountable for the decisions and the votes that they make.
Absolutely.
That's why it's so important, Deontay, that people go to these meetings and watch these rubber stamping going on. You have elected officials sitting in those meetings silent for 4 years and just raise their hand in opposition to the things that affects you. That affects you. They raise their hand, not even thinking consciously. You know, you have some school board members right now that think that the superintendent is their boss.
Oh, that's a lie.
You see what I'm saying? They think that the superintendent is their boss. Not all of them now. But if you just listen to the conversation, they think the superintendent is their boss. You never hear them speak at the school board meeting. I mean, just silent. They give consent to what's going on. And a lot of times we really need to dig a little deep and see what's really going on in the background. You know, what it comes down to is those pet peeves and things that's happening with nepotism, what it boils down to most of the time. But in other cases, they just vote because I like that. I like the superintendent, or I dislike the superintendent, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They need to vote on the issues. What's affecting people, equity and equality within these schools. That's what the segregation come into play at.
Yep, absolutely. So please get involved, participate. Do we have any announcements, Mr. Neal, before we get up off of here?
We got No,
For
we're
one,
not
the
going to talk
runoff
to generation.
election. For one, the runoff election is June 28th. Please show up and vote. All right. The second one is the school board meeting Tuesday. Be there at 5:15 on Tuesday. So that's two things on Tuesday. You need to vote. And if you in Georgetown County, whether you have children or not, show up and show your participation in the budget. Okay. School budget is about to be approved.
And all polls are open in this area. All polls are open for that runoff for Melissa Matthews and Ms. Flemings. The polls are open. You know, but one thing, Ebony, is critical that people get out to these school board meetings and county council meetings and city council. These local meetings, it's critical that people come out and see what's going on, because people are making decisions about your children, about what's infrastructure in your community, and these type things that affect your daily life, and you really don't know until it's affecting you after the fact. You know, a lot of people look for the NAACP to speak for them. Yeah, we speak for you in your absence, but your absence should not be consistently absent. But we have consistent absence of the people coming to these meetings. You know, in this minority, Black people. We need to get out and get to these meetings because there are things that's affecting you. Don't create your poverty with silence. Don't support poverty with silence. You have to speak things into existence. Your voice matters. And your voice sometimes is your vote, because that's what takes place after you speak at these meetings. Somebody's going to vote on it. Those folks that you put in office should be the voice and the vote that takes place after you speak. So these elected officials, school board members, county council, city council, these people speak for you. And they put people in place, water and sewer district, all those accommodation tax, all those things affect you. These are people that put those park and recreation commission, all those commission goes into place from them folks you put into office.
That's right.
And learn to serve. Get in some of those positions. That's how you learn what's going on.
That's right. Service to people. Volunteer. We have so many ways that you can volunteer with us. If that's nothing but reading a book, you know, there are opportunities to read books to children, y'all. You know, that doesn't take a whole lot of talent per se. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. We just need you to show up. If you don't know what to do, we got some work that can be done. Positive work.
Hey, join the NAACP. We give you something to do. Just
that's
join.
Right.
Don't worry about the naysayers. You got a lot of naysayers out there. The NAACP don't do. You never hear them say what the NAACP does. Just pull up our page. It speaks for itself.
That's right. Do a lot of work in the community. We appreciate everyone who already does donate, everyone who already does volunteer. We need more of you. We have a lot of work ahead of us to help and serve people. That's what we're all about. We thank you so much for joining today's Spotlight.
One more thing, Ebony. The NAACP just got approved for a $500,000 housing grant. That initiative will take place starting the 1st of July. The 1st of July. So there will be some doors being knocked on, and there will be some more sessions and stuff that we're having. But that's to help people, again, with housing situation, litigation, and everything else. We don't have all the details yet, but it's $500,000 that we'll have in the hands in the NAACP in South Carolina and Georgetown. So just wait on the announcement, follow our page, because we'll be meeting next week and the week after on putting things into place. There will be a couple of positions for hire also to go out into the communities just to find out what the needs are. So just stay on the pouch and just watch our website and watch our Facebook page.
Yes, yes. And once again, we appreciate you for joining today's Spotlight, which is brought to you by the Georgetown branch NAACP, where we are here to educate, motivate, activate. Please stay tuned. We will be right back here Saturday for another Spotlight. Please go to our Facebook page, like and subscribe, as well as to our website, which now we're actually doing some improvements so that you can also be able to stay tuned for events that are coming up, and our YouTube page. We're always live on YouTube. Please remember to go ahead and stop by that page as well. Until then, be blessed, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, say your thing, Deontay. How you say it?
As always, we love you. Continue to love yourselves.
Later.
Peace out.